Hey everyone, I'm Alyssa, an Indianapolis Colts cheerleader for the 2024 season, and this is Believe in Colts.
Welcome back to Believe in Colts. I'm Lawrence Owen with my guy, Donald Thomas, and oh my goodness, man, we have so much to talk about after the Week 1 loss to the Houston Texans in Lucas Oil Stadium. And I'll be honest with you, I feel like the Colts shouldn't even been. I don't know how it was a 2-point game at the end, right? I'm looking, and not only that, in the fourth quarter, it was going into the fourth quarter, it was 15-7 in the fourth quarter. Ended up being 29-27 or something like that was the final score.
Yep.
And I'm like, how? First off, the Texans should have had 30 going into the fourth quarter. I mean, in all honesty, because it somehow they only had 15 points. But to me, it felt like the Colts had absolutely no way. It's like they never stopped the Texans at all, ever. The only way they stopped them was every once in a while they would get some pressure on him, get a sack or something like that. But it seemed like anytime there was a third and long, the Colts defense just, was like, here, you could have the first down. Now, I'm not saying it was all like that. I mean, that one pass at the end of the game to basically seal it when we needed that third down stop to get the ball back, to have a chance to kick a field goal to win, that was all CJ and the receiver, right? That was a hell of a play by them. I can't really complain about our defense. We flushed them out and everything, and the coverage was pretty damn tight. It was just a great throw and an even better catch. So, but for the most part, it felt like the Colts in this game was just completely outmatched.
Yeah. Wow. No. Yeah, I will give you that. Unmatched, I will say yes and no. I think it just came down to who wanted it more at the end. And kind of during the whole game. Like stopping the run on repeated plays that are exactly the same. They motion into that formation. They're running the same toss play. They ran it like 4 or 5 times. They ran outside zone a million times, and all Joe Mixon did was cut it straight up, 3 steps and cut it up into that, B gap. I mean, it was there all game, and it just comes down to, a mindset of a want to, in my opinion, right? Stopping the run or creating a run game consistently comes down to who wants it more. Now, guys are going to be, there are some tough matchups, but whoever it is not going to make a play every single time. So when you need it the most, who's getting the ball, you got to stop them. I mean, are we just not good enough to stop the run period consistently throughout the season? Or was it just a mindset of the Texans just were like, we're getting the first down, we're running the ball, we're going to control the clock, we're going to eat the game up? I don't know, but only time will tell as the season unfolds here. But I mean, yesterday was just more so of you knew who was getting the ball and you knew who was going to get yards, and it just was happening time after time after time, and that was frustrating.
It absolutely was. I'm going to get a little bit more. We are going to get a little bit more into that run defense and the run offense for the Texans in just a moment. But I got to remind everybody, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our 200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and your share of the $200,000. When the game's over, head over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. So all off season, there's been back and forth with Zaire Franklin saying, Zaire Franklin, CJ Stroud, and Zaire talking his stuff, EJ talking his stuff. And I'm going to be frank, CJ won that day, hands down. Look, I saw EJ a couple times in this game, right? But Zaire was a no-show. I even saw one where he tried to tackle somebody, but it was a shoulder tackle and he got right through. I'm like, what in the world is this? Now, possibly it was a shoulder tackle because he was still on the block and he didn't get his arm out. That's a possibility. But that was the problem in this game is the linebackers couldn't get off their blocks. They couldn't get off the offensive line. Had them wrapped up as though they had glue on their hands, and the linebackers were just stonewalled. And that's going to allow Mixon, to have 30 carries on the day for 160 yards. I mean, it is what it is. Where do the Colts run defense go from here?
Well, you have to start up front. We can point fingers at the linebackers and say they didn't get off blocks. They weren't where they're supposed to be. But, any linebacker will tell you the good defensive tackles are the ones that, consume two linemen so they can run free. And you didn't see a lot of linebacker play where they were running free to just miss tackles or fall off tackles. When the ball was snapped, they were consumed with a offensive lineman in their face. Whether it was a clean block or not, they were in their way of them getting to the ball. So, you have to look up front first, and D tackles have to consume two guys, whether it's taking a knee, whether it's holding on to two guys at one time to not allow them to get up there for that extra second so that linebacker can get a couple extra steps and get in there free. That comes down to that. I mean, we can say Zaire didn't show up, but when you don't get a fighting chance to start this, start each playoff where you got a lineman just cleanly just running up to you in the lines getting reached. It's tough. It makes for a tough day. So I'm not gonna put it all on Zaire. I'm not gonna put it all on EJ. Hey, listen, at the end of the day, the great linebackers figure out a way, or great players figure out a way to make a play. I tell people that all the time. So whether it's becoming elusive, knowing that those, linemen are getting up to you, or heck, I don't know what's being said on the field, but sometimes you just got to tell your guys like, hey man, you got to take up two here. They're getting up to us too quick. You got to put the onus on somebody at some point, and guys got to step up. So, it's definitely in the box issue, right? Because let's face it, Joe Mixon didn't run outside the box a lot. I mean, he was cutting that thing up in there. I mean, the toss play to the outside, and it was going in the front side B gap. You know what I'm saying? Like you knew where it was, like outside zone. It's going in the front. It's going in that front side B gap. Like they weren't running the ball outside the tackle, so it wasn't like they had to rely on corners and safeties come down and make tackles. It was in the box, and so I look at that as being a little bit of a alarming factor. I don't know if it's D tackles are trying to make plays themselves like one-on-one and not worry about consuming two and letting someone else make a play, but it's just got to get fixed, and it's got to get fixed quick.
So I wonder if this is what the Colts defensive line is going to be like now that we got a new defensive line coach, right? Now, to be fair, our previous defensive line coach spoke highly about getting everybody, defensive tackles, ends, whoever, in the backfield, right? Rather than eating blocks, getting in the backfield, creating havoc, and that kind of situation. While you were talking, I was thinking, man, maybe that's what this defensive line coach was about. It was more about trying to get pressure, because let's face it, I felt like when it came to pressure, the Colts did a good job, right? With 4, I felt like, they had CJ under pressure most of the game, ended up with 4 sacks, forced him out of the pocket a few times, throw the ball early a few times. I thought the defensive line, when it came to the passing game, did well. But do you think maybe they were focused a little too much on getting to the quarterback and not enough, as you were talking about, of filling gaps and helping the linebackers in the run game, or yeah.
I think that, and from what everyone was thinking, right? Like, oh, Houston's loaded up, with all these offensive weapons. They're going to spread the ball out. They're going to move, they're going to shift formations. They're going to, try to find holes in the defense. And I think there was a lot of, emphasis on stopping the pass game and getting to the quarterback and shooting gaps and all that. But Sometimes when you shoot gaps, sometimes when you don't focus on, hey, look, they just listen. Everyone kind of wrote Joe Mixon off, but I knew Joe was just in a bad spot. And you see sometimes when players go and get a new start, fresh breath, a fresh breath of air, or whatever you want to call it. You see why they were who they were before if things got stagnant. So I think that there was more emphasis on the pass game than there was on stopping the run. I don't think that there's going to be this huge, like all of a sudden the Colts can't stop the run. I think they just need to focus on how to stop the run and get back to the basics of what they did well last year up front, right? Like you got to be a bully, but at the same time, sometimes it's not all about you making a tackle up front. It's about what you did to create, for your linebackers to be able to come downhill and make a tackle. So, there's just got to be just a refocus this week. We can't ignore one, because there's two. There's a pass game and there's a run game, and when we focus on one overly than the other, as we saw, they just listen, man. One man almost had 200 yards rushing by himself. Like Jonathan Taylor could have those numbers, but we didn't open up holes for him like we should have. I don't think he got the ball enough, in my opinion. I don't think that they utilized him like I thought that, like I said last time before the preview game, right? Preview for the game, like run the ball up the middle. There were yards up the middle. I don't think they stuck with it enough, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, like they had linebackers coming down making plays because guys weren't getting to the second level every time. And that's what you want your D-line to do, is not allow those guys to get up to the second level. So when you look at it from two different standpoints, I think the emphasis for, Houston was, we got a pass game. Let's make sure our run game is right. Let's see what Joe can do. Joe proved that this offense is going to be potent all year because now you got to respect the run game, as you saw what we just did week 1 against the Colts. And the Colts have to understand, like, now guys are going to try their run game, their run defense, because they showed a lot of holes in their run game. And you focus on one, you gotta put focus on both of them. So I don't think it's more of a D-line coach situation, because you got essentially kind of the same guys in there from last year, right? Like it's not like it's all like you got 5 new guys up front, and it's not, you got the same guys. They know how to play the run. We just got to do it better. Period.
Absolutely. There were 4 highlight plays in this game for the Indianapolis Colts, 3 of which were offensive. One was special teams, right? Almost forgot about that special team highlight where Alubi blocked the punt and the Colts recovered it right in front of the goal line. That was pretty amazing. I want to remind everybody that did happen, right? Then, of course, everybody remembers the 2 passes to Alec Pierce that both went 65 plus in air, right? And the second one was even underthrown, and Pierce came back for it. Had Anthony were able to put another 5 yards under that, he would have walked into the touch with a touchdown on that one as well. But let's face it, 65 is still plenty. That's a lot of yardage.
Yep.
Look, Anthony had some highlight plays, and we all knew he was going to have highlight plays. We all knew that, there's going to be 2 or 3 plays Anthony Richardson's going to have. You're just going to go, oh my goodness, this dude is something else. But then there was 3 really bad missed passes to A.D. Mitchell. There was the slip interception. Well, Granson, the interception where Granson slipped a little bit. There was multiple passes where it looked like he was just trying to force feed Michael Pittman Jr., even when he was covered really well, and he probably should have been intercepted, right?
Yeah, at least
there was some bad decisions and some really bad accuracy issues. I don't know if it's all accuracy, or if maybe, like, especially when it comes to A.D. Mitchell, maybe they're just not on the same page. I don't know. So what are your thoughts on Anthony Richardson's performance yesterday?
Well, like one of the reporters said, for Colts fans, strap in. There's going to be a lot of this up and down kind of deal this year. I said it before. I said, look, listen, the man is in the 0.001 percentile of exceptional athletes in the world. He's going to be able to do some things, but who else isn't in that percentage in the NFL where they can't do some things too, right? So the overthrows, the forced balls, you have to look at it from a standpoint of, I don't know. I'm just speaking. I don't know if he feels like he's obligated to get the ball to Michael Pittman because he knows Michael Pittman is supposed to be the guy, right? I don't, there's young quarterbacks that feel obligations to not overlook a receiver who they know should be getting the ball, right? Or who has a strong personality or they know is going to cause turmoil if they don't target them at least a few more extra times in the game. So, like the interception, we talked about it before when we said Granson slipped, like, yeah, but it's a stat. And there's no asterisk next to it saying, well, you said corn husk, turf, and coach should have, they should have practiced on it. Like, yep, there's none of that. Like, understand this, like, growing up, you play on whatever is presented to you. I don't care if you're in a top team in the high school team in the country and you play on AstroTurf because the other team didn't. You better figure it out. Put some sneakers on and get moving. So like, I get it that it's unfortunate that was an interception because he slipped. Yes, he slipped, but you're professional, and no one feels sorry for you. No one's gonna be like, oh well, asterisk next to it, he slipped. It's not his fault. Like. It's a stat, regardless of what it is. So he threw a pick. I'm not going to say the ball was a terrible ball. Granson should have been there. He slipped. It is what it is, but it's a stat. So when you look at it from that standpoint, you also look at Anthony had 56 yards rushing, right? Mm-hmm. Jonathan Taylor had 48 yards rushing. If I take away Anthony Richardson's design quarterback runs, we're not over 100 yards rushing on the game. We're not even near it because he rushed on that third and long. He picked up that huge gain for like 20-something yards, I believe it was.
On 3rd and 5. Yeah,
right up the gut. Right. And then he had another run where he ran, and I think he had like 13 yards, something like that. So like you take that away and our run game was obsolete. So we can say what we want about Anthony Richardson, but we didn't help him out in the run game. Like if we look at it like 16 carries for Jonathan Taylor throughout 4 quarters. What? You mean, and I get it. We're trailing. We got to throw the football. But the game's not that far out of hand to where we deviate from running the football. But yards have got to be had when you give Jonathan Taylor the ball.
I'll tell you what. Hold on. I'm sorry, but you're talking about the game wasn't out of hand. We can't run the football. Time of possession reflects how this game went. When the Texans had 40 minutes, literally 40 minutes even of time of possession to the Colts 20. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. Yeah, that tells you that one team could not run the football and was relying on big plays to stay in the game, and the other team was methodically walking down the field.
I'm not disagreeing with you. But what I'm saying is when you have someone who is arguably one of the better athletes, better playmakers in the NFL, you got to find ways to get them the ball. I don't care if it's out the backfield, thrown on the – I don't care what it is. But, like, you got to get that man the ball. And so at the end of the day, like, I just felt like he wasn't truly in the game plan when you throw two big plays, you know what I'm saying, that were like the biggest plays of the game for the Colts.
Let's not forget about that crossing route by Ashton Dulin, the one catch that he took to the house. That was pretty nice too. That was, but I was about to go off and say, like, with Alec Pierce, like he shows that he can run. He can run and he can catch some deep balls like we saw in training camp and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, man, like the game plan's got to be rearranged to where we get our playmakers, our true playmakers who we got to rely on all year. The football has got to be in their hands. So if you're going to pay Michael Pittman Jr., he needs more than 4 catches for 31 yards. And if I'm going to pay Jonathan Taylor, he needs more than 16 carries for 48 yards. Because at the end of the day, like, what did we keep him for? What are we paying for? Right? Like,
why are they not the focal point of the game? Like, I get it, but like, look at what Houston just did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Diggs didn't have a monster game. He had two touchdowns though. Yep. He had the biggest touchdown when it counted to seal the game, right? Like Joe Mixon, that man came out with no gloves on and said, "Give me the rock," and ran the football all over the Colts yesterday and talked noise every single time he got up. Every single time. I knew that he wanted it. I didn't see that from the Colts. Granted, from the beginning, when we say they get 0-0, the game's close, like I got to see that emotion. I got to see that fire. Like Houston just had that confidence. They came into the game knowing that they were going to dominate up front. They were going to run the football, and that was their focal point. I guarantee you that was probably one of the to-dos, or one of the things we're going to do in this game is we're going to dominate up front. We're going to show them who we are. And they did that. And the Colts did not do that up front, defensively or offensively, in my opinion. I mean, they had glimpses of it, especially on defense when it mattered getting to the quarterback. They stopped Joe a couple, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough to get a W.
No, it wasn't. Offensive, I'm gonna push back just a little bit on getting the ball to Michael Pittman Jr. I understand, man just got paid, and the quarterback feels like he needs to get the ball to him. But if a team is focusing down on one guy, I mean, look, Michael Pittman Jr. was covered by Derek Stingley Jr. This night and had him pretty well routed. If a guy's not open, don't throw it to him. Right. It is look him off and go to some. If one guy's covered down or double teamed, that means somebody's one-on-one and probably got some open air. And that happened a few times. Like I said, there was a few open passes that were just missed badly. I mean, badly. Oh my goodness. I don't even want to talk about that down the sideline to AD Mitchell. It was stupid. I thought he was throwing it to a fan. I really did.
Yeah, it was horrible. Well overthrown.
Oh my goodness. But here's the thing. Like going back to the running game, I understand Jonathan Taylor was only getting 3 yards a carry, but I've stated this multiple times. Running the football is not the biggest benefit of running the football is not in the first and second quarter. It's in the fourth quarter. It's when you have wore down that defense and now you're able to impose your will on that. Generally, when you run the football a lot early in the game, you're not going to get 5-6 yards a carry. Unlike, Joe Mixon was able to against the Colts, but generally you're getting 3 yards a carry in the first and second quarter. It's after you wore that defense down when it pays off in the fourth. When you wore that defense down, you're able to impose your will and get down the field and eat clock and win a game by holding on to the football and not giving the ball back after scoring a touchdown. We lost by 2 and we had a failed 2-point conversion. I'm just saying. I just realized that.
Well, analytics say if we want to go that route, right?
I mean, granted, if we'd have kicked the extra point, we'd have lost by 1.
Yeah.
So we had to go for 2. We just didn't get it. What did you think of that play that they ran? I had never seen a play like that before, ever. By this team. It was an interesting reverse that I had seen. The only thing that I saw after they flipped it on a reverse to Jonathan Taylor, which I didn't expect. They put Taylor out wide, and it looked like that Richardson was going to run towards his left, towards the left sideline, then flipped it back on a reverse to Jonathan Taylor to the other side. I feel like there should have been a tight end who could have slipped out the backside, and then that would have gave Jonathan Taylor an option, right? If there's a couple guys there that could tackle him down, he could have just kind of popped it over the top of him. And had there been one there, it was odds are we get that 2-point conversion. But for the most part, I like the idea of the call because it's something that he has not played before. And so it wouldn't have been on any kind of tape. And it was just, the defense for the Texans played it very, very well.
Yeah, well, I mean, they weren't fooled. They knew something was up. They knew they hadn't seen that formation before where Jonathan Taylor split out like that. I just feel like you can't run reverses until you run the ball very, very well in the game. It just doesn't work. Because, like, what are you fooling me with? You know what I'm saying? But I've always been a stickler with 2-point plays are you stick with what you do well. And you have a like every team that I played for, we had a 2-point play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you mean tell me that's the Colts 2-point play?
I hope not.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and we ran that 2-point play at least, a handful of times, if not more, during training camp. We all knew this was our 2-point play. We ran it at least once or twice during the week. We all knew that was our 2-point play. And so, like, you can't expect good things to happen on a 2-point play when you need it the most, and you're hoping that it's like some trickery or some type of, just spectacular play where somebody has to make like this outstanding, run or outstanding reverse play. Like, it just doesn't work that well. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, that can't be their best play for a 2-point conversion. Like, it just can't be. Like, but they didn't have faith in the run game. They didn't have faith in the pass game. They didn't they just hoped that they were just going to catch them off guard and they were going to get lucky. And that's just how I saw them, like, and they weren't fooled by it.
Yep.
And so, when things like that happen, like, I always tell people like this, if you turn the ball over, you deserve to lose. If you run plays that are you're just, hoping work, you're going to lose. You don't deserve to win a game when those things happen. So when they ran that play, I was like, I just shook my head, man. Like, I was literally like, yesterday I was stuck at my daughter's softball tournament, and I was watching on my phone, and I couldn't like get too loud because like I was sitting right behind the umpire and stuff like that. So I'm like right there, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh my God, what was that? Because
I mean,
I
you
know
sent
that's
me a
not.
text.
I did. I texted you and everything. I'm like, listen. I'm like, that just can't be their best 2-point play. I'm just not convinced of it. So, like, why would they run that? I get it from a standpoint of like, hey, if this works, if I pull this off, I look like a genius.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you didn't. So, like, now it's back to the drawing board, and people are going to question play calling when it comes to that.
So this wasn't all doom and gloom for the Indianapolis Colts. Again, we only lost by 2, and there was some positives to take out of this game. 3 positives that I see. 1, our pass rush looks good.
Mm-hmm.
2, Alec Pierce is the guy I thought he was last year. He just didn't have a quarterback. I did say this multiple times. He is a deep threat. He's got to catch the football. But last year, we did not have a quarterback to throw it deep.
Hold on. Timeout.
Nope, you're going off of one time. I said, Pierce, you got to show up. One time.
But listen, that was almost like a year to the day.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm losing my patience with Alec Pierce. And I'm like, wait, give him a minute. I think he's a baller.
Because he had 2 drops, but as much film as I went over, I've said many times, dude's open a lot downfield. Just never gets the ball thrown to him, right? You got to come down with it when the ball's thrown to you, though. Well, he showed up this game.
Yeah, he showed up.
And the third thing that I saw as a positive, and I cannot understate how important this makes me feel and takes a little bit of pressure off my chest, is Anthony Richardson finished the game. I'm just going to leave that out there because, he played 4 games last year, finished 1. All right. So, he's 1 for 1 this year so far. That's good,
Well, I mean, he can't be cursed his whole career.
I hope not.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's going to be all right. I am glad that I do hold my breath a little bit when he runs the football and gets hit. Only just because he just came off of a shoulder injury. He's getting his shoulders hit. And I know the guys are trying to tee him up just because of his sheer size alone. with him running the football. So
that 11-yard run that you were talking about, one of the Texans like lowered and speared through and missed him by this much.
Yeah, which almost could have been
mm-hmm.
if that really hit him. That could have been a flag for real. That probably would have changed the game tremendously. Guys got to be smart with that kind of stuff too, man. And that goes on both sides of any team. You just got to be smart with those plays. And I know they happen fast, but no, in all seriousness, like I didn't think, and I'm going to say this, I didn't think that the secondary was terrible yesterday.
It wasn't.
I thought that
it wasn't great.
No. I was going to say I thought it was above average. Like they got put in some situations where they were forced to. They were forced to tackle. They were forced to be a part of the run game to stop the run. They were forced to, have to make some big plays and coverages. And granted, when it was time to make those plays, they didn't make them when they counted the most. Like the Diggs touchdown at the end of the game to seal the game. That was just, man. But what are you going to do with that, man? That was tough.
That is tough, but Nico got behind both the safety and the corner.
Yeah. But, I'm just saying in general, like they weren't where it was everybody else was doing their thing and they were just getting burnt. Like it wasn't that yesterday. So, I think that they can probably, switch a couple guys around here and there and try to figure out what the best chemistry is for that unit. But, yes, Anthony finishing the game is a tremendous positive. The D-line getting what I tell you, I said they're going to get their sacks, they're going to get their pressures. I do want to see, and I did see Latu getting in there a little bit. I want to see him get in there and he be the first one and get that clean sack that he's but he was around the ball. He was around the football. He was. So that was a plus. I really do think that if this D-line really takes the onus on holding, not allowing, the offensive linemen just to get free shots at linebackers, I think I think we can start saying the linebacking core. I think they had a tough day yesterday. I think they had a really tough day yesterday getting off blocks, but it's not just their fault. I'm not going to give them that. Like I do have like a soft spot. Like when you look at like really good linebackers, you have to look at who's in front of them. And that's like, like there's guys that just make plays and they call things out, but like this group isn't that group. So you gotta understand, you gotta help those two guys out in the middle, allow them to, come downhill and be present. So yeah, there are positives to take away from this game. Like I said before, I don't love when it's a divisional game right out the gate. It's tough.
Because
it's tough.
Yeah. Because especially when you got a young team like the Colts, and it takes a few weeks for them to really get into a rhythm. And this is basically Richardson's rookie, like an extension of his rookie year, so he's still, getting timing stuff and understanding his receivers and things of that nature. So yeah, I fully agree with you.
Who would you bet? Right. Just a question. Like if you had equally talented rosters on both sides of the football, matchups were equal, right? Now we got to look at the coaching staff. If you had to pick between Shane and D'Amico on who was going to have their team more ready to go, who would you put your money on?
Team ready to go, I would say D'Amico.
Mindset wise, just ready. Yeah.
When it comes to mindsets, I think you got to go with the defensive coach. Now, when it comes to who would I want I'll go with Shane Steichen when it comes to, a lot of stuff. I think I'd rather have Shane Steichen overall as a head coach. But when it comes to mindsets, usually defensive head, that's their forte. You got to have a specific mindset to play defense, right? I mean, you do defense and offensive line. I mean, those are two plays. You got to have a specific mindset to play those positions, especially in the NFL, because there's a lot of contact in that aspect. But like I said, I'd rather have that. But when it comes to like overall play calling and things of that nature, I'd rather have Shane Steichen. But when it comes to mindset, I'd rather have D'Amico.
Okay. It's just a question. I just think that from the jump, when you even when you watched from the first play of the game, like you saw who I don't know, who just had like that moxie about them. And when it came down to just like coaches getting fired up and getting their guys going and stuff like that, like you saw D'Amico really like being like really demonstrative and guys responding, and Shane's more laid back, and I feel like Shane yells when like things aren't as going as good as opposed to like fired up about a big play, regardless of offense or defense. That's just my opinion. But at the end of the day, like it comes down to, man, like you have a month or a little over a month. You know who that first opponent is and how you're going to play them. Yes, you have to evaluate. Yes, you have to get ready for preseason games and all that. But in the back of your head, you're always throwing that week one matchup and how important it is when we get to Indianapolis. When Houston gets to Indianapolis, however you want to frame it, guys got to be ready to go, man. And you can't stress how important divisional games are. And I just felt like the Houston Texans knew how important this game was, as opposed to because the Colts could have won this football game. They could have won this football game. I just feel like there was just not enough emphasis on certain parts of the game, in order for you to really win a game, like with this magnitude. Like, yes, it's week one, but God, this could very well be the difference of them getting in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So we can't sit here and be like, oh, it's week one, we got to build up. Yeah, yes, we do, but it's crucial. And I just felt like some guys don't understand that. And when you have a younger team that doesn't have a ton of playoff experience or really understand how this whole thing works, it's difficult. And you have to drill that home. Like, I need week 16 game on the line to get the playoffs. I need that week one. Guess what? You get paid a ton of money, so I need it out of you. You got to give me that for us to win this football game. And I didn't see that. I just didn't see that effort put forward. Like when it came down to stopping the run, who's going to get the ball. Is only one running back touched the ball for the Houston Texans. Like, you got to stop this man. We got to figure out a way. We got to stop this man. Guys got to get off blocks. Guys got to get back there. Guys got to penetrate something. Like, and it just, bro, like it was a toss, Joe. Like
one cut and go.
One cut and go, man. So it was just frustrating from that standpoint. I do think the Colts have a lot to build off of. I do think that they just have to figure out how they're going to utilize their weapons as well. And play well next week. And it just comes down to that. Go back to the drawing board. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. There's going to be wins that are going to be had from the Colts that are going to surprise a lot of people. I feel like just because we have those playmakers and we have people that can create. But when you don't put it all together consistently, it's going to be frustrating Mondays like this.
Yep. Completely agree. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. But if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the like, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you're listening to this to an audio podcast, make sure you rate it and leave a comment on there as well if you can. Don't forget to share this with your favorite social media friends and family. And until next time, this was Believe in Colts, brought to you by Bet Online. I'm Lawrence Owen. That's Donald Thomas. And as usual, go Colts.
Go Colts.
Do you believe?